insulate the pole. Number two, just simulate that tree fern. We were looking at a vanilla vine on a tree fern. It just helps grab nutrients out of the air, allows the vanilla to feed. Vanilla is an incredibly unique plant that it can feed just as easily terrestrially as it does epiphytically. So it can switch between growing based off its conditions. As a farmer, you want it to be growing through the air because then you can control every facet of it. Soil brings in a wild card. You never know what the soil has inside there exactly, so you don't have as total control over it. So here, the orchid bark is all soaked. We basically get as much nutrients as we can out of the bark before we put it around the plants. And yeah, that's just there to retain moisture. We were actually, up until very recently, we were using this fiberglass compound. Like there was no, it was just there to hold moisture. That was it. But I hated working with fiberglass, so we switched back over to bark just because it sucked. The biggest problem with vanilla is that vanilla has an incredibly long lifespan for a vine. I mean, you're looking at 20 years, all right, if you do it properly. That's the big problem with the bark, all right, and that was the reason why my father liked using artificial stuff, is because the bark will break down and turn to mush within like 3 to 4 years, and then you have a sponge that's just, it's going to retain too much moisture. So our goal actually when growing vanilla is to get it up out of the ground. And actually, I would say about 90% of the time does happen if you do our methods properly. If all their feed is coming through the air, they will eventually climb up the trellis system and actually extract themselves out of the ground. And when we get back up to the mill, for those of you that do want to see that vine we were looking at, is actually, that's happened. All right, there's too much water in the soil. They hate soil, so that it's actually pulled itself up out of the ground. What I mean by pull itself up, it's just cut nutrients to its bottom root area, and that all died, and the rest is all living up through the air. So these roots can feed two ways. They feed epiphytically, and then if they hit soil, they'll turn to a terrestrial root system that can branch off in many different directions and stuff. So, yeah. As I said, the primary way we get new vanilla vines is through cuttings. Now, the larger the cutting is, the higher the chances the vanilla vine will actually survive. All right, so this right here is a really large cutting, this whole thing. And you can tell because of the leaf size. All right, the larger a vanilla's leaf is, that's how you signify how old a plant is. Okay, it's actually not by vine width, because they'll get about this thick and then they'll stay that thick their whole life, no matter how large they get. It's the leaf. The leaves will get larger and larger and larger, and you'll know that's an older and older vine. You know, this is a baby vine. This vine was started actually at the base of the row. You can see it will naturally train itself onto the bare metal, which is actually really cool. And it saves us a lot of labor. And this is a very young one because it has very small leaves. As the plant reaches the top of this pole system, we'll run a big bar running down the length of the row. 3 layers of hog wire, just really thick wire, really basic trellis system. We just want a solid wall of vanilla. My father's tried a bunch of different things. He tried to do it like a TP system, just a bunch of crazy stuff. We found that we can't let vanilla form any kind of chamber on its interior because it will flower inwards, right? It flowers wherever it's shadiest or something like that. So it's really weird, okay? And we can't pollinate those flowers because we got to use our hands to do it. So just a solid wall of vanilla. We don't let them mound because that causes moisture, which then turns into mold. I just repeat again, mold kills vanilla vines. It's the #1 killer here. We have a disease, a fungus called Fusarium that just recently got to Hawaii. I mean, we really give Ag Inspection props. They kept it out for like a decade, all right, before it actually got here. Everybody else was dealing with it. Madagascar was the world's largest grower of vanilla. They were growing like over 30,000 tons of vanilla. They now grow under 15,000 tons just because of this Fusarium disease. It's one of the fastest acting diseases we've ever seen. It'll attack the apical growth. There's usually baby leaves popping out right here, and it will kill the plant within 2 weeks. Okay, so it's gone. The whole plant will just eventually just start falling apart. The leaves will fall off, all this stuff, and it's impossible to kill. No one's figured out a way to actually kill it, especially organically. So once a plant gets it, the only way to keep it from spreading is to get rid of that plant and burn it, and that's why there's so much space in between each one of our vines. That's why we have 2 acres to grow vanilla in, but we're only growing like equivalent to 3/4 of an acre. I mean, I'd say if that. That's just because we have all of our vines pretty much spaced out to the max to make sure that